In this short video, we'll be discussing the use of that, this, those, these, and it in discourse. So as we already know, that, this, those, these, and it are pronouns that replace nouns, and they're also demonstrative determiners, or they're words that come before a noun. In discourse, they refer to previous ideas or topics. And by discourse, we're talking about conversation or written discourse, such as paragraphs or essays. We use that in speaking in a specific way. It's used by one speaker to refer to another speaker's statement. So, for example, in this short conversation we're going to look at, A says, "I'm doing research about the connection between the time of day a class starts and the academic performance of college students." B responds, "Oh, that's interesting. How'd you come up with that?" So you see that right here is actually referring to A's entire idea here. And that is also referring to the entire idea that A is presented. In writing, that is used to refer to a topic or idea that has already been mentioned. So if we look at this little piece of text, research has shown that learning a second language improves brain function. That may explain why polyglots who continue to use multiple languages as they age have a lower chance of suffering from Alzheimer's disease or other types of dementia. So you see that this writer has used that right here, and that refers to this whole idea up here. Research has shown that learning a second language improves brain function. So it refers to something that's already been mentioned. And that is a pronoun here. If we take a look at basically the same piece of text here, research has shown that learning a second language improves brain function. That idea may explain why polyglots who continue to use multiple languages as they age have a lower chance of suffering from Alzheimer's disease or other types of dementia. So in this case, you see that we have that idea rather than just that. So in this case, that is a demonstrative determiner. But this phrase, that idea, is again referring back to the very first sentence in this text. The way we use this in speaking and writing, it's used by the same speaker or writer to refer to a previous idea. So if we look again at the same piece of text as the previous slide, you can see that this is being used instead of that. And when we use this, it also refers back to the very first sentence in this text. So this is a pronoun in this piece of text. If we look at this text again, there's a little change. It says instead of this, we are using this research. So we can see that this is a demonstrative determiner here, but this phrase, this research, is again referring back to the previous idea, which is presented in this very first sentence. For those, we use those to refer to multiple statements or ideas by another speaker. So if we look at this example from a conversation, A says, "I want to do my research on the effects of the time of day and academic success. I was thinking about surveying students who are taking the same math class at 8 a.m., 11:15 a.m., and 2:15 p.m. about how they function in class. Also, I want to see if I can see what their scores are on their exams." B responds, "Those are good ideas, but you need to think about." Okay, so when we have B saying those are good ideas, those is referring to all the ideas that A has presented. So we can see that there are multiple ideas presented by this first speaker, and B is referring to all of them using this word those. So those in this case is a pronoun. If we look at the same first part of the conversation, we can see B responds a little bit differently in this one. B says, those ideas are good, but you need to think about. Okay, so in this case, those is a demonstrative determiner. It comes before the noun ideas, but those ideas refers back to all the ideas presented by A. And again, those is a demonstrative determiner here. When we use these, we use this, usually the same speaker is using it to refer to multiple statements. So let's take a look here. Language learners should make sure that they study the language that they are learning a little every day rather than once a week. They should also be sure to try to converse with native speakers on a daily basis. Of course, studying vocabulary and grammar regularly is also very important. These are some simple ways to effectively learn a new language. So these right here is referring back to the ideas that this person has presented for effective language learning. Learning a little bit every day, studying every day, conversing with native speakers, and studying vocabulary and grammar. So 3 ideas here are represented by this word these. So in this case, these is a pronoun. If we take a look at another use of these as a demonstrative determiner, you see the ideas at the beginning of the paragraph are the same as a previous paragraph, but we've changed these to these simple methods. So this phrase here, these simple methods, is now referring to all the ideas that came previous, the 3 ideas here on effective language learning. So in this case, these is a demonstrative determiner. When we use it in speaking and writing, it refers to a statement or topic already mentioned by the speaker, the same speaker or another speaker, and it is used to reduce repetition. So if we take a look at this example, being early to a class is important. It gives the impression that you are punctual and highly motivated. So this it is referring back to this idea here, being early to a class is important. Another example, last winter I went to Japan for the 6th time. It was just as amazing as the first time I went there. So again, we have it, and it's referring back to going to Japan. Let's take a look at this short piece of text. Some language learning research has shown that the human brain learns grammatical points in a certain order. This may explain why learning simple sentences is easier than learning complex sentences. It also explains the order in which grammar points are presented in textbooks. So you can see here that the first pronoun we use is this. This is referring to the first sentence here. And then the writer switched to it in order to avoid using this again. And it also refers back to the very first idea in the sentence. So we can use it to reduce the amount of repetition in a piece of writing. And that's a little bit about using this, that, these, those, and it in discourse.